I said in my last video that when AAA gaming does something good, they should be rewarded for that and the game should perform successfully. However, when they do something bad, I think that they should be raked over the coals for it. And the attitude of a lot of these directors and a lot of these AAA game developers is just unacceptable. The fact that they feel that they're entitled to your money is something I just can't get behind. I don't understand. So many of these companies that are out there right now feel like they've been around long enough and they just deserve your money. Unlike the AA studios and indie studios right now who are just happy that you checked their game out. And it's a very, very different dialogue when you're looking at the AA and indie guys versus the AAA ones. How appreciative AA and indie is. And I think honestly, because I've been checking out more AA and indie developers lately and looking at what they've been saying about their games and so on and so forth. And even some AAA games have kind of come out with more AA budgets. Space Marine 2 kind of reminds me of that. And obviously Black Myth Wukong and Power World and all this stuff. And I've been exposing myself to a side of the industry over the last year who are very, very appreciative to have the customer bases that they do. But the Borderlands 4 director just absolutely pissed me off with this. And don't get me wrong, I've talked with some friends of mine about this and they go, oh yeah, that's par for the course for this guy. That's the problem. So let's get into this and what the Borderlands 4 director said about true fans of the Borderlands franchise. So over here on Tech for Gamers, the Borderlands director says, you'll still buy an $80 game if you're a true fan. Literally pulling the no true Scotsman fallacy like off the bat. This is absolutely ridiculous. And also Borderlands 4 has doubled the budget of the last entry. So scrolling down here, the prospect of $80 games has become a heated topic of discussion in the gaming industry. While fans are essentially against it, it seems to be the way forward for most studios, especially since Nintendo announced Mario Kart World. Now, excuse me, I apologize. Now, the Borderlands director has stated, if you are a true fan of the game, you will still find a way to buy it, even if it's priced at $80. But he doesn't know what Borderlands 4 will cost. Why it matters. Polls have revealed that most fans are against $80 games. However, data suggests fans often buy the more expensive deluxe editions of games, which could motivate publishers to raise prices. I mean, if that's really a true thing, then honestly, a lot of gamers are getting what they deserve. If you're willing to spend more money on the deluxe editions of games, then obviously you're telling people that you're willing to spend more money on the game. And for me personally, I don't know if there's a game out there that I'm willing to spend the deluxe edition on, because deluxe editions and stuff like that back in the day, they used to send you, like with the Halo stuff, they'd send you the Master Chief helmet, they'd send you extra things, they'd send you goodies, things that you could physically hold in your hands. Nowadays, you get extra lines of code. That's not something that you can hold in your hands or own. And especially with physical ownership of games going down, I don't think we need to be giving money for deluxe editions unless you're getting something physical, some memorabilia for that, because that's something you can hold on to. And then maybe it appreciates in value years later if the game blows up and does really well and you can sell it. But honestly, spending extra money on just lines of code, that practice needs to go away. So here is what was said. It says, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase the price tag. You're the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. Randy Pitchford, which again, a lot of guys have said, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff behind this guy. My friend educated me today when I was talking, and he's like, this is par for the course. He says, A, not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working for minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach. And I found a way to make it happen. Let's talk about why that entire statement is wrong. So, in 1991, he's fresh out of high school working for minimum wage. Ergo, fresh out of high school, probably still living at mom and dad's house, having little to no actual financial weight on his shoulders. Sorry about that. Financial responsibilities on his shoulders. And he decides that he was able to scrounge away with no financial responsibilities on his shoulders to pay $80 for a game in 1991. Now, don't get me wrong, factoring in inflation and all that, $80 was a big price tag back then. However, I have to ask you a very serious question when it comes to Borderlands 4. Considering that the first one came out in 2009, I was 17 at the time, I am now 33. Is your audience out there for Borderlands 4, the true fans, the OGs, the ones that have been with you, are they fresh out of high school working in an ice cream parlor with no financial responsibilities? No, I would imagine that a lot of the Borderlands fan base is probably around my age, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. There's a range there, but I would imagine that they probably have rent. They probably have car payments. They probably have insurance. Some of them probably have families and children that they have to take care of. They have weekly grocery bills that they're looking at, and they have all of this stuff to contend with in their budget. And now you're saying that they're not true fans of your game, even though they might have been ride or die with you since 2009 when they were just coming out of high school. And you're saying they better figure it out, or they can figure it out. Why in the world did you decide to double the budget of Borderlands 4, or whoever decided to double that budget of the last game, and now all of a sudden, it's the customer's fault for saying, hey, the game's priced too high. And you go, well, I figured it out when I was fresh out of high school with no financial responsibilities on my shoulders. Why can't you, in your 30s with financial responsibilities, figure out how to fit my up-priced game into your budget? You see, this is something that when I read this, I'm surprised more people aren't running with it. However, the marathon news is absolutely insane, and everybody's talking about marathon right now, and I think a lot of things are slipping under the radar. I think a lot of people who do a really good job covering a lot of these stories kind of get caught up in the really big ones. It's why I try not to cover the really, really big stuff. Sometimes I do because it just interests me, but I'm more interested in covering some of these things that are kind of getting lost by the wayside. But how arrogant can you be to say that a high school person, fresh out of high school, working for minimum wage with no responsibilities is the same as somebody who's a fan of your franchise, which started in 2009 and is most likely has the adult responsibility and most likely has the adult responsibilities on their shoulders? That is not a fair comparison. And to say that the onus now falls on the players because, well, it just does, and they can figure it out. How disrespectful can you be to your player base? You know, if I were Randy Pitchford, and I'm obviously not, but if I were, my response would have been, you know what? We understand that people have been here since 2009 with us. We understand that they've probably aged up and that if they're still looking forward to Borderlands 4, they probably have more financial responsibilities on their shoulders. And we as a responsible company want to make sure that we can provide that game to them at a price point that they can afford and also at a price point that helps our company succeed. Because inflation isn't affecting everybody, and it's also affecting our... No. He doesn't say that at all. He doesn't say... All he says is, if you're a real fan, if you're a real one, you'll figure it out. I figured it out. It was 1991. I was fresh out of high school. I had no financial response. I figured it out. Why can't you figure it out? You see how it doesn't work? You see the arrogance and the absolute greed that these people have? It's almost like they have contempt for their audience at this point, and I can't quite figure out why. I don't understand, with most people on the planet dealing with financial struggles and financial burdens right now because the economy has been absolute crap for many years, why they think it's a good idea to reduce the amount of people that can purchase their game because they're increasing the prices. And we are seeing this. There is a very, very good argument to say that the reason that the new Doom game that just released, which I did that video already on Friday, that the reason that that game didn't sell well, now people are like, oh, but on Game Pass, but on Game Pass, but on Game Pass. Well, we don't know. But the reason that it didn't sell well on Steam, a lot of people in the comments section of my video quoted the price. They said, I love Doom. They're like, but one, this ain't the greatest Doom game ever. And two, it's not worth the price tag that they attach to it. Why on earth do these studios keep saying this? And honestly, I know what it is. It's greed. They are owned by stockholders. They're owned by corporate shareholders. And in the corporate stock world, money line always has to go up. Always. Has to, can't not. And that, I think, is the antithesis of the artistic vision that goes for video games. Because I think that what we need to see is we need to see more studios out there. Actually, Kepler Interactive, which is the publisher for Sandfall, who actually did Expedition 33, they give the game developers ownership in Kepler, the publisher. So effectively, the publisher is owned and has a large voice from the developers themselves. Hopefully they don't go public. God, that would be terrible. Maybe they are public already, but maybe it just hasn't, they're new enough that that all this corporate stock crap just hasn't seeped in and infected them. But when you start seeing these companies where it's like Moneyline always has to go up, and it's not like, well, oh, we made enough money and now we can start the second game. It's like, no, we have to make so much more money. And on top of that, they're spending so much more money to make them. Why do you think it was a good idea to double the budget for Borderlands 4 from Borderlands 3? That just doesn't seem responsible. Was Borderlands 3, was that profitable at the price point that you baited at? Cool. Make Borderlands 4 at the same price point. Obviously, you learned some things. You should have learned some things during the development of the Borderlands 3 that would make the process faster and slightly less expensive. So you could probably do more with it. Because obviously, if you do a task more than once, you start to learn how to do that task faster. Anybody can do that, right? For instance, when it came to driving cars, a lot of us were like, oh boy, this is really nerve-wracking. After we drive a car a few times, we get to a point where we're like, oh, we're laid back, we can do it. We know all the things, we can react faster, we're not so nervous anymore, we get it, right? If you've ever done woodworking, if you've ever done welding, if you've ever done anything with your hands or any creative process, you go, oh wow, maybe if I just do this over here, it's gonna make my job so much faster. I mean, video creation, a lot of people out there are putting videos on YouTube. Over the course of time, you figure out easier ways and faster ways to do your job. And yet, these guys supposedly should be figuring all of that out while they're developing their games, figuring out where the bad parts of the process are, but then they're doubling the budgets? How does that make any sense? The absolute contempt that these AAA companies have, and to say that you're not a true fan unless you figure out how to pay them that $80 price tag, you should not buy from these people anymore. I don't care how much you love a product. If the people creating the product have contempt for you or are saying that you're not a real fan of the product because you might be on a budget, you should not buy that game. That is not something that should be done. And gamers, I hope, are starting to get the message. It just makes me sad to see that a lot of long-running franchises that people do attach themselves to greatly in their lives are being treated this way. I don't like that people are being treated this way by the people who they supported. It's why I think AA and indie developers right now are the way to go, because it seems like they're appreciative of it. It seems like a lot of them, if they fail, they go, yeah, you know what? We failed. We didn't provide that. And they take that responsibility on their shoulders and they do their best and they learn for the next time. But apparently once you become so bloated and big, all of a sudden it's just okay to basically say, wow, we don't want the brokies. Brokies ain't real fans. I figured out how to get it when I had no financial responsibility. Look at your age demographic, dude. I'm sorry. This just irritated me. A game franchise that's been around since 2009, arguably the people who have been there since 2009 would be the true fans. And to say that they're not a true fan because they can't fit your higher price tag in their adult budgets, because that was 16 years ago, that's contempt for your audience. You should go out of business. I genuinely, after this, I kind of hope Borderlands fails. I hope Borderlands 4 fails. You don't get to treat your audience like this. If you want my money, if you want your audience's money, then you need to treat people with respect. You're asking for our money, which means you better earn it. So ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about the comments that Randy Pitchford made. I was educated today by my buddy because I missed a lot of years of gaming. That's a whole history I could get into later. But my buddy let me know this is pretty much par for the course for this guy. Why do you support somebody like this? Why? Borderlands people, why do you support somebody like this? I want to know. Comment down below. Please let me know. Don't support people who treat you like this. And as always, for those of you who stuck around at the end of the video, thank you so much for checking this out. And until next time, cheers, everybody.